Morning, it is 20 minutes after 7 o'clock, and joining us in studio this morning from the Walker Aviation Museum, Robert Sherman back with us. Morning, Robert. Morning. Got to put a microphone in front of you. Forgot to
Hey, morning. Wake up here.
How are you doing today? How's your 4th of July weekend?
It's good. I tried to get a lot of stuff done yesterday, and then I realized it was the day after a holiday, and nobody's, not
open.
Some people are open, but
sure.
not a lot of people.
There was a lot of taking the day off yesterday.
And I can understand. Having time to get back home and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, museum's still closed. Now we got from the flooding back in May.
Yeah, the pandemic, we're just ready to open up, and then we get that little flood in around the 29th of...
When the levees had the issues
when the
and all
levees
that.
broke out there, and the home terminal got about an inch or two of water. So we're still waiting for some repair to be done.
Okay.
So we can move stuff back in the normal place. So
okay, so maybe
it kind of looks like we just moved in from out of state. And it's a total mess out there. So.
But hopefully here over the next month or two, or when we'll start seeing some progress being made here. So good. Well, we'll let folks know when that happens. But for folks that aren't familiar, the Walker Aviation Museum, it's home there at the Roswell Air Terminal, and it is the history of in case for folks that didn't know, the south end of town, you might have heard some people been here while referred to the base, down by the base. That was an Air Force base, Roswell Army Airfield, during and before World War II, and then, of course, afterwards when the Air Force and the Army separated into two branches, became Roswell or Walker Air Force Base, and was there up until 60s, and then base closures and all that stuff. But it was a major training area during World War II, also during the Cold War era, housing our Atlas missiles and things in this region. The Walker Aviation Museum devotes the history of the base and our Cold War era stuff around here. So
right, we from 42 to 45, we trained 14,000 pilots and bombardiers. If you put those two together, about 14,000 people. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of training going on during World War II.
Sure, yeah, odds are pretty good. If you're a B-17 crew, you probably spent some time in Roswell
that's right.
learning your craft. So, so that's what the museum is really to celebrate, and the people and the mission that took place here during that time.
Yeah, it was kind of the you went through initial pilot training, and then you came here for multi-engine aircraft, and then some bombardier training.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder. You always wonder because the size of the airfield and everything. Do you think, like hindsight 2020, the Air Force wish they kind of kept that as a base? Or
yeah, I think so. I think it was political.
Yeah,
you know what bases got closed in '67. It was part of the Vietnam budget issue going on.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think considering the size of the runway and the climate we have here, it's like you closed it. Like seriously, compared to keeping some other places open.
Sure. And I get we have Holloman and Cannon and but that runway, I mean, it's the biggest. There's not many like that in size and and uniqueness, and even because there's like a grooved and ungrooved, and that there's a whole big thing behind that too for pilot training and all that. So it's kind of interesting. But
yeah.
Anyway, folks, we always looking for more people to get involved with that, but more to come as the museum opens back up here, and then hope we can
we really
start getting groups through there.
In a critical stage as far as needing some folks.
Okay.
To join our board of directors so we can move forward. And later in the briefing today, I'm going to talk about the B-47 bomber.
Okay. But if folks are interested in volunteering, either serving on the board or serving in any of the volunteer capacities, please reach out to the Walker Air Force Base Museum. We'll tell you the different ways through the website or through Facebook. There's multiple ways. We'll talk about that later. But if you just have an interest in getting involved, maybe, some people are like, well, I was a military, so there's that connection. And
right.
If you have that, please, we'd love to have you. But if you just have an interest, or maybe you're just a fan of World War II aircraft or something, we'd love to have more folks to get involved and help with some of the decisions. Obviously, one of the goals, or one of the goals that have been a part of the Walker Aviation Museum for multiple years now is to kind of work into the STEM and that side of thing to also kind of hopefully spark the interest of some kids to pursue careers in aviation and in engineering and that side of the world here, and inspire some more of that.
Hopefully, within a year from now, we can look back and we really are going to be moving forward in that area, because we just luckily just got a approval from Xcel Energy for a $10,000 grant.
Good.
So thank you, Xcel Energy. So we put that in, and we're going to be purchasing some flight simulators, a couple of those, and some touchscreen computers for STEM stuff.
Cool.
So I've been talking to some folks that I just kind of won't talk about here in a minute, that are going to coordinate and come on out to the museum and do some things out there. So Ruben Bolaños, for example.
Oh, okay.
You know Ruben.
I know Ruben.
Great guy.
Yeah, he is.
He's a STEM coordinator for Roswell Independent School District.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be getting with Assumption Catholic Church and the Gateway School to get some
partnering with some
kids. It's probably in the range of 13 to 18 out there.
Sure.
And hopefully let them get on the simulators and get some briefings on STEM and stuff like that. So
cool.
We're trying to move forward in that area, as well as get back up to speed and get our historical stuff back up on stands.
Awesome. But if there's people,
right now it's kind of a mess out there.
Sure. But if people are interested, love this kind of stuff, want to get involved, please reach out and we'll talk. We'll see where we can plug in and get you helping out here. Of course, one of the things we always like to do when we're talking here with Robert and all that is talk a little bit about some of the history of this area here, and obviously with that with the Roswell Army Airfield and Walker Air Force Base, there was a bevy of aircraft that called that field home for some years, some a shorter stint of time. But I would think if it was a bomber anywhere from the 40s to the 60s, I don't care what model it is, it probably one of them sat some time in Roswell there, at least, you know. You know what I mean? Because of the uniqueness of that field and what the training purposes and what they could do out there. Mm-hmm. So today we're touch a little bit on the B-47. Yeah, we talked last month about some of the development of the B-47 design and some of the issues they had with it. It was. It had to land pretty fast, and some other issues that we talked about last month. Sure. I thought this today I would go into a little bit of the operational history of the B-47. Okay.
So B-47 had a crew of 3, and it's a six-jet engine aircraft, and could carry about 25,000 pounds of bombs. Okay. And what that meant in those days was either one really big nuclear weapon or up to 4 smaller nuclear weapons.
Gotcha. It was based on weight, not on quantity of bombs, basically.
Yeah. Or it could carry 28 500-pound bombs.
Gotcha.
So
that's a lot of bombs, by the way. They carpet bomb. Yeah. They don't. Nowadays, they're more precise with their bombing, so they don't need to carpet bomb them. They can do one and guide it and do the same thing that 25
right into
did.
The right or left window of that building.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 2 guns in the tail, maximum speed of 607 miles an hour, and combat range of 2,013 miles, but a ferry range with some under-wing tanks of 4,647 miles.
Okay.
And it can fly up to about 40,500 feet service ceiling. And it was in Strategic Air Command of the U.S. Air Force from 1951 to 1965.
Okay.
But the B-47s at Walker were here from 55 to 58 because the B-52s came in pretty quick.
Okay.
Because this was one of the premier bases in the country. So when the B-52s came out, it came in here pretty quick and it bumped out the B-47.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it is it just got obsolete quick, didn't it? That was there was a lot of breakthroughs and design things that they had to overcome to get this here. But once they got it there, then, bigger, faster, stronger. They were working to make.
I look at that and I think, 55 to 58. That means when I was from 12 to 15 years old.
Gotcha.
And I can remember, I was really interested in airplanes in those days and watching it fly around.
I'm curious, and this is where, because like you mentioned, this one was predominantly 50s, and there. The crew of 3, like you look at a B-17 or look at some of the World War II era. Was that because the tactics changed? Where, I mean, obviously there was a lot of anti-aircraft guns, but in the 50s, were they less sending the fighter groups to go after bombers and more flak and anti-aircraft stuff? So they just didn't need as many gunners as like a B-17 or what? I was kind of curious about that. Like, did the philosophy change in the tactics in the 50s from World War II as far as dealing with bomber groups and stuff like that?
Yeah, I guess so, because all that large number of the B-17 and B-24s and stuff was for all the side guns, front guns.
Yeah, and these 50s.
Now it's just basically a rear gun, and in this case, the gun was kind of like it, and something was automatic. You could actually operate it from the front. Mm-hmm. So you had a pilot, co-pilot, and you have a bombardier.
Gotcha. And so really, it was just technology had forced us to do different tactics on how we deal with that. So
at the speed they're flying or the altitudes they fly in, there wouldn't be airplanes zooming around, coming back and forth.
Gotcha. They're a lot faster.
Coming head on, coming to the side. It was just like, rather just droning along in a B-17, like, okay, let's go get this guy.
Yeah, they were moving. They were moving, trying to get from point A to point B as fast as humanly possible, basically. Right. Gotcha. So, makes sense.
It became operational in 1953, and it was sluggish on takeoff and too fast on landing. It was considered a maintenance hog. So if you're a maintenance guy, you go B-47.
Well, that makes sense, because anytime there's like first generation technology in something, there's always a lot of breaks or a lot of, and
actually, the B-29 came out pretty quick.
Yeah,
I mean, it was kind of a maintenance hog too. My dad was a crew chief of B-29. So.
Anytime it's fast, there's there's positives and negatives for everything like that. So.
So avionics remained kind of troublesome through the B-47's operational life. A few crews felt the aircraft was safe and not too demanding, but some crews did not like the B-47. They go, So by 1956, the U.S. Air Force had 28 wings of B-47 bombers.
Oh, wow.
That surprised me. 28 wings and 5 wings of RB-47 reconnaissance aircraft. And it was the first time American strategic deterrent operated from forward operating locations. For example, B-47s operated out of the United Kingdom, Morocco, Spain, Alaska, Greenland, and Guam.
Oh, wow. So all of it, if you're on you're on one of these crews, you're serving overseas. Most. I gotcha.
And a lot of the B-47s were often set up in a 1/3 alert, where a third of the operational aircraft were available, sitting on the hard stand, full of fuel, loaded with an atomic bomb.
Gotcha. At a moment's notice,
and the
they're
crew
airborne.
Kind of standing by out there, little quarters where they could ring the bell, jump in the aircraft. Then they would take off minimum intervals, and sometimes that was only like 15-second intervals as they went down the runway. And that caused some interesting situations, because you get the wing vortices and the general turbulence and some black smoke from the water-injected engines.
Okay.
So it was not that simple. Especially if you're at the end of the line. If you're the first guy off, fine,
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And during the 15-year life of the B-47, there were 28 different models. And the B-47 was produced, was a bomber version, there's a reconnaissance version, there's a weather research version, and there was a lot of test aircraft.
Oh, nice.
For different test projects they were doing.
So they did get some versatility out of that model.
The phase out of the B-47 began in 1963 and was completed in 65.
Gotcha.
And the last operational WB-47E models assigned to the Air Weather Service were withdrawn finally in September of 1969.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So the B-52 replaced its, as far as its mission and role and everything.
Right.
Well, in all fairness, the B-52's done that to a lot of aircrafts. That's an aircraft that's still in the U.S. inventory today.
That's right.
And is still very much in, the big strategy of, if things go down, these aircraft are still very much in that mission statement there.
That's right.
So don't feel bad. That aircraft has outlived a lot of others too.
Thing is that might surprise a lot of people is the only B-47s to see anything resembling to combat were the aerial reconnaissance variants. Okay. And the first overflights of Soviet territory with the B-47B model, fitted with special radar and cameras in the bomb bay, occurred in 15 October 1952, flying over Soviet airfields in northern Siberia.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense why they might have had some.
So a lot
incidents.
of people hear the U-2 getting shot down. No, the B-47s were flying over Fort Long.
And probably a lot lower than that U-2 was flying.
Yeah. And during these operations, 5 B-47B models were fired upon and 3 were shot down over Russia. And in May 1954, a top-secret mission near Kola Peninsula, the 4th Air Division 91st Strategic Reconnaissance Wing, that had a RB-47E overflew Soviet Union at high altitude, but it was chased by MiG-17s. And at that time, the U.S. intelligence weren't aware of the MiG-17. I guess that's when they first came out.
Okay.
They just thought of MiG-15s. And while taking damage, it escaped over Sweden and landed back in Fairford, RAF Fairford in the United Kingdom. And the incident was kept secret by Russians and the Americans. After that happened.
Yeah, they didn't want them to know that we were over there, and they don't want us to know that we found out stuff. So
an RB-47E flying out of Alaska, scouting the Kamchatka Peninsula on 17 April 1955. It was intercepted by MiG-15s over international airspace, and the aircraft and crew disappeared. Never were found.
I'm sure they ended up in the ocean somewhere. Yeah.
And between 21 March and 10 May 1956, 16 B-47E models and 5 RB-47H models operating out of Thule, Greenland, performed overflights the length of Siberia 156 times.
Oh, wow.
So they were just going back and forth under Project Home Run.
Okay.
And just to last a couple items here, there were many missions and conflicts that were involved with the reconnaissance mission. And these missions continued until 1963 when the Lockheed U-2 took over what they were doing. And over its operating history, the B-47 and its variants, 203 aircraft were lost in crashes.
Oh, wow.
And 464 deaths of Americans from flying that aircraft. So that's why I don't think a lot of people thought it was the safest aircraft.
Sure.
And the Wikipedia has 3 pages of short descriptions of the crashes. And, gives you like a quick summary of this is why this one crashed, this is why this one crashed.
Sure. And is there a consistency to those crashes, or is there something?
Yeah, there were some issues on stability and flights and stuff.
Because generally speaking, I don't know if they do it this way back then, but I know like when I was with the 117s and they had that one with the air show in Baltimore when the wing fell off. I don't know if folks remember that in the 90s there. Mm-hmm. They grounded the whole fleet because they found out there was a bolt or something that was recalled or something. I don't remember the whole spiel.
Really?
But yeah.
I don't remember that. Was a wing fell off of a...
Yeah, it was like 96, 97.
Really? Okay.
It was an air show in Maryland up near Baltimore. And it was flying, and next thing you know, this wing fell off, and then the pilot ejected, and the thing crashed in a neighborhood. And of course, firefighters and all that stuff had that ram on it that burns cyanide gas when that stuff catches fire. And so the Air Force guys all showing up to put it out in these big hazmat suits, and they're like, "Yeah, you guys need to get away. You should not be hanging around this thing."
That's interesting.
Yeah. But and to be honest, that was like right around when I first got to Holloman. I got done so it was probably 97. So I got into Holloman. And I'd done all my training and stuff, and I got there, and that first month and a half, I think I got there and got set up, and then like a week later, they shut down the flying schedule and everything for a couple of weeks while they did this inspection on the entire fleet.
My memory's failing me. My wife probably remembers. She's got a memory like an elephant.
I was a Jeep back then, so they didn't really trust me with much. So, I just got to the base. I was in
Maryland at that time, living in Maryland, yeah.
Okay.
And I was at Washington, D.C.
Yeah, it was up in a Baltimore area air show or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
I probably kind of faintly remember that, but I didn't realize the cause of it.
There was a
follow-up.
Yeah, there was a one of those long line things. So I'm wondering if they ever had those kind of mass like recalls of some of the parts or something. I imagine they did. That's probably led to some of these. But
yeah, I want to mention some stuff right quick before we move on.
Yeah.
By the way, the B-47 was replaced at Walker by the B-52. So
okay.
Again, we really miss the passing away of Senior Master Sergeant Bob Pottle, who was part of our group for a long, long time.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Brigadier General Doug Murray, the Dean of Academics at NIMI, who's our Vice President. He's now moved to Colorado Springs.
So we do have spaces available for folks that want to get involved in things, and if you just have a love, a passion for this kind of stuff, that's really all we're asking is folks that are really wanting to see this and help, or even if you're like we were talking earlier, STEM, that teacher side, we love to have that kind of input on the board as well too.
Absolutely. So. If you're a science teacher or retired science teacher, or even not, someone just interested in STEM, we'd be very happy. And I guess I'm trying to figure out a way to people get a hold of me. I could probably give you my phone number, but you'd have to text me because I won't answer.
I think if you the Walker Air Force Base Museum Facebook page, if you shoot a message on there, someone will be happy to see that and get back with you. Leave your contact
because
information.
we got some contacts from people that wanted to get in the museum this weekend.
Okay.
And that's
probably a good way to get a hold of somebody. If you go to the wafbmuseum.org, www.wafbmuseum.org, you'll find links to donate money. I think there's some emails and things if you have links there. If you have questions or want to get involved, you could shoot an email to one of those links too, and someone will get back to you on that too.
So the board members right now is myself, Katie Yates, Sandy Correa, Bob Donnell, Juliana Halverson, Judy Armstrong, Jerry Cloffer, and Friar Jarek Nowacki.
Cool.
From Assumption Catholic Church.
Nice. Very good.
So anyway, that's our group right now. And if you joined us and you have a conflict with daytime meetings, we can sure shift our monthly board meeting to a time when everybody can make it.
Okay.
So,
but if you're, please reach out if you've got ideas, if you want to serve, even if you're like, well, I don't want to be on the board, but I love to volunteer and help out docents, things like that. We've got, there's opportunities all there, but we especially right now with the flooding, with just the world that's been in limbo here, we really need some bodies that can kind of come and help and do some manual labor and getting us back up and running and everything out at the museum or out at the airport there and get the museum back going there. So
right, we have Jacob's Ladder out there, which is that 10,000 watt generator. You touch it and the little lightning thing goes up and down.
That's a STEM project for the kids. Yeah,
and we've got a bicycle donated by Excel and put together by Ron Lynch that. You get on and pedal, and it generates electricity and gets a little light going and a fan blowing on you.
Gotcha.
Stuff like that. So we've got several items out there. Slide rule that people at my age used all the time in college because you didn't have calculators in. And actually in high school, Roswell High School, everybody took slide rule class.
It's that was something I was talking about my trip to the Grand Canyon all this a couple weeks ago when I did that in the Titan missile site I was telling you earlier I went to, and that was one of the things that most impressed me about it. And this is universal here when the Atlas sites that were here and everything else is you don't realize that the technology involved in what they did during this era of the Cold War and create these missile silos. And I mean, just wrapping your head around being the one pushing the button, that's a whole nother thing. But just the technology involved and the science behind it. This is way different. This isn't like today where they had computers that can crunch numbers and run massive calculations and things like that. No, it was guys with slide rules, guys with these things, and all the math calculations to make sure the science and everything's behind. This is all done by hand, by slide rule and all that. The walls, the technology in building that thing. Generally those missile silos, it's 8 feet of poured concrete down these holes, and it's a solid sheet of concrete they pour down these. That's a feat of engineering in and of itself just to make that. That's why that's what is to stop the blast, to keep the radiation from coming out. Those 8-foot wall doors that make it, to close it and everything. That's all designed and built with slide rules and hand calculations and all of that stuff.
Just a few years ago, quite a few years ago, they were talking about the average car, how much more computing power it has than the Apollo spacecraft.
Yeah.
That went to the moon.
Yeah, your phone's got way more technology
phone,
in it than the Apollo spacecraft. And
which I keep finding I'm still at that generation where I'm wondering about something, and then I just go on and ask Google, how many miles is it from Roswell, New Mexico to X town? And they go, just tells you like that, and boom, shows you a little map all of a sudden. Like,
yeah, that would have been nice to have in the 60s, huh?
I wish my dad was still alive, or my mom, who's a science teacher, she could get that and go, whoa, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. We do appreciate what we have.
Like, how did they find that out just like that, you know? But
yeah, somebody had to measure that, and and it was all done by hand, and I think sometimes we forget that when we go to these museums and things. So when the museum opens and when you hear these things and all that come back, understand that side too. During, we talk about the planes and the men and women that were serving and all of that, but you don't realize the world they lived in versus the world we live in now, and how they come and create this. And
that movie, The Hidden Figures.
Yeah, exactly.
These women were.
That's a great example of kind of the
African American women that were kind of like not treated very well, but they were actually doing all the calculations.
Sure.
And I remember, was it John Glenn or somebody said, "I'm not launching until I get their approval."
Well, and that's just it, because you're relying on their math,
as far as
their
reentry and stuff like that. And,
it's not a computer; they're plugging this stuff
they're
in.
All
These
out
are
there
human
on the
beings.
blackboard, doing their calculations.
To me that's the amazing thing about all this, and they don't get that. People younger, you got to wake them up and understand that sometimes. But anyway, WAFBmuseum.org is the website. Walker Air Force Base Museum on Facebook. Please reach out if you'd like to volunteer or have any questions or anything there, or school group stuff, want to learn more information.
Yeah, you want to purchase something from Amazon, go to Amazon Smile.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to support.
Yep, and we get a small little tiny chunk of that. It doesn't cost you any more.
Yeah.
And you can give now through Let's Grow Together on that website, GoFundMe thing there. And
there's a link on the website there for that.
And I'm probably going to have our golf tournament again in May of 22.
All right, so
military.
Usually do it right around Armed Forces Day.
Armed Forces Day in May, yes. And we want to thank Roswell Toyota, XL Energy, Pioneer Bank, Featherstone Development, and several folks in town personally that have donated money. We appreciate it.
They're longtime supporters throughout the years of the museum and the mission statement that the museum
Alan
is.
Trevor's helping us out. And out at the base, at the airport, Scott Massey is airport maintenance, and Denise Garcia is brand new. She's the airport property management person, so she's been helping out a lot. And, of course, Scott Stark is always a good guy. So anyway, we appreciate all those folks help us keep moving, and we're going to get cleaned up and get the doors open and hopefully get some flight simulators up and coordinate with the schools and hopefully have people coming in.
Get back to the mission statement that is the Walker Air Force Base Museum.
That's right.
So awesome. Well, again, folks, learn more, WAFBmuseum.org. Find Walker Air Force Base Museum on Facebook. Like and follow there. Please, if you'd love to get involved, if you're a history buff or a STEM buff or military buff or just, I don't know, like helping and doing these kind of things, please get involved. And the more involved, the less hands and less work, and to be honest, a better product. And I know everyone comes here for the aliens but Roswell has such a rich history that has absolutely zero to do with aliens, and let's showcase some of that too. And Walker Air Force Base.
Yeah, by the way, we really appreciate Jim Hill putting that $80,000 display of Walker Museum out there. So it's almost, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get some stuff like that.
We went through on Friday. It's been a year or two since I got a chance. Yeah, so I went through on Friday during all that. And they got a lot of great information, and kind of, I know a lot of people want to go and look at the cool pictures and things, but spend some time watching the film, reading the timeline, reading some of the stuff. You'll get educated on a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, that was like an $80,000 display they put up.
Yeah.
So anyway, next month we're going to talk about the B-52.
All right.
Okay. All right.
I got a chance to climb through one once when I was in tech school. Mm-hmm. There's literally miles and miles of wire bundles I think if you stretched all out, it's like 40-50 miles of wire in one aircraft. Awesome. Did we get everything for this time?
I think so.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir, as always.
Appreciate it.
And folks, reach out, WAFBmuseum.org, or find the Walker Air Force Base Museum on Facebook. Looking for more folks to
and
get
we're at the
involved.
air terminal as you come in the north door on the right side.
Yeah.
16-foot screen door.
Yeah.
And we've got about 50 model airplanes down the hallway as you go down to get the tickets.
Yeah. So you can check those out right now while the rest of the
got a little
museums get
sign
worked on.
saying this was at Walker from this time to this time.
Yeah, it's kind of a timeline or a little bit of a evolution of the aircraft that served at that airfield.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
Stay dry and cool and whatever things we might get over the next couple of weeks.
Bring on the rain. I love the rain.
I'm not complaining either. You'll never hear me complain. Well, you will, but not right now. All right, 7:51. Let's get you up to date with local news.